So now let's now then switch and look at the other side. And on the other side, there's a similar double process going on. So the process of you start the divination into the future with from the present, from a state of, and you send a perceptual probe, as it were, into the future. Now, sometimes visions will come to us, even if we didn't have them. You know, typically a person, say, may have a dream vision, and there's stories in the New Testament like that. For example, Joseph, the father of Jesus, had a dream. The angel came to him and said, "Look, Herod is killing all the baby boys. You better take the wife and child, saddle a donkey, and go to Egypt." And he said, "Okay, I'm going to do it." He just got the vision. He wasn't doing it. But for divination, it's conscious. So in ancient times, in pre-Christian Europe, among the Germanic and Nordic people, the ability to foresee the future, to look into the future, was highly regarded. The Germanic people thought that women had that ability naturally, much more so than men. Men could also learn it, but there were also professional seeresses. They were called Völvers. They were followers of the goddess Freya, who would go into a seeing trance in response to questions from people. People would come to them with questions, like chieftains would come and say, is this battle that I'm going to have planned next week, is this likely to have a good outcome? And if the seer said, no, don't forget it, you'll have your ass whipped, then they would not do it. Or is this marriage going to turn out well? Or is the harvest going to come? Or is my husband going to come back from the sea? Like that. Yes, like the oracle. Exactly. The Völvers or the oracles or the prophets, they do it for other people. But you have to start by learning to do it for yourself. And that's a general principle of learning. You learn to do the divination for yourself. You're divining your own future world. And then if you've got some clarity about that, then you can do it for other people. Otherwise, your own personal neurotic fears and worries and so forth, and expectations and hopes and wishes are going to cloud your perception. That's why I would say I would never personally, and I don't mean any disrespect from it, take a psychic's perceptions about my future for reality unless I can think of them as confirming something that I've gotten myself. I think that's giving up your own responsibility to do that, you see. You wouldn't want to do that. I don't think it's a good idea. So now the name for this thing is visioning, but as I said already, visioning is not so good a word because it suggests something passive. I don't know what other word to use. Progression, as the opposite of rejection, or projection. They all have different meanings, you see. Progression and projection have different technical meanings. It's not really right. There is an old word I found out, old English word not to use so much anymore, called forethought. That's what it is. We use it in law, malice or forethought. If you kill somebody with malice or forethought, it's worse than if you did it accidentally. But forethought can be without malice, you see. It's just projecting your thought into the future. Like Odin had two ravens. That was another part of the Odin myth. He had two ravens on his shoulders. One's name was memory and the other one was thought, or forethought. You could say they fly around the world each day and give him messages from the past and the future. So then you get a perception of some kind, an image, a scene. And but then you bring it back, you see, a vision, into your present. And that, what do we call that process here? We call that realization. Right? You make it real, because that's the point. Joseph getting that dream wasn't just, oh, that was an interesting dream, and go on with your life, business as usual. No, he said, take the action. Think of a young child who has a vision he's going to be a doctor. Okay, so then he takes the action. He goes to medical school or apprentices himself to a shaman or whatever form of medicine they're going to practice. Take the steps that will make that vision real. Otherwise, and a lot of indigenous traditions like the Iroquois say this, if you have a vision and you don't make it real, you could be in trouble. It's considered disrespectful to yourself. and to the guides and the spirit that guides you. And when you do that, just like when that's integrated into the present. You see your future as a probable future, and then you take the steps, like you walk onto that path, one by one. And you could see how you could do that repeatedly. It could become a practice, just as remembering can become a practice. And you can get more detailed vision about how to do the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. Although in indigenous tradition, they also have the idea of the vision quest. In adolescence, you go a vision quest, like a vision for your whole life. And then when you do that, then you expand, your present world expands. Your present sense of self expands, like the little boy then becomes, he's the doctor in becoming. I'm going to be a doctor. So that changes his sense of self, expands his sense of self. Again, it's not prediction. Because you're not saying it's actually going to happen that way. It's sowing the seeds, planting the seeds, so that the probabilities are increased. But the outcome is always probabilistic. So, in order to do the future seeing, we're going to use this sound thread again, and it's in general terms, energetically, if you think of your present self, sense, the past is behind or below. Right? We come from the past. If we're walking on life path, that's where we come from. We say that. Where are you coming from? And the future is ahead, or also up. So, in terms of the image of the tree, we want to go to the top of the tree, the crown of the tree, for future vision.